Dexter, it's Saturday. What are you doing here?
We got some secret stuff on a secret Saturday. What do you think about that?
Happy Saturday. We're here to get this guy finished up. Super secret squirrel stuff this time. And I'll give you a super secret sneak peek what we're talking about. Hey, real quick before we start this video, a lot of you guys have been asking for team shirts. Finally, Autohaus has t-shirts, so it would really help out a lot if you supported the shop, got some merch, some shirts, stickers, support the media work, support me and my dog. Check out that merch store so I don't starve you guys. They're pretty late last night, so back here again on a Saturday, get this guy finished up. So yeah, long story short, the fronts are basically on. I can just set ride height and bolt together some of the ABS line and the brake line brackets. Let's check out the rear. Yeah, kind of sucks. I think also on a GTR, you gotta take the back seats out because actually the, you can spot it right there. The bolts for the top of the struts are behind the back seat. What that also means is I'm gonna have to run these extended adjusters. So these are 390mm length. You can actually buy these separately on the Annex store, and these should actually fit majority of coilover brands. So if you don't have Annex and you know you need extended adjusters, you can get these. I believe these come in a 390mm and a 325mm, so one more size shorter than this. But so yeah, there's certain cars I know like Evo 10 S2K, the interior covers the adjuster, so you can see there's a hole right there. I can thread these adjusters through and they'll just attach on top, so I can do dampening adjustments through the trunk. Also, not so very fun surprise I discovered last night, but I'm glad I found it. So I think ever since I've had the car, I've had an intermittent steering wheel vibration at highway speeds. It got worse recently after the, almost died, after the new wheels. These were pretty rough when I first bought them, so I also dealt with a local shop, balanced these incorrectly, and you know, of course that's another debacle. So I had these rebalanced, they were good for a little bit, or so I thought. Kept having an intermittent steering wheel vibration at highway speeds. I think it's gotten pretty worse now. So I was just about ready to send these down the street to check if there's like a bend or anything, but I'm pretty sure I discovered the root cause, so let's walk back up to the front. So they call that guy the outer upper control arm bushing, and you can see that thing's destroyed right there. But just because it looks destroyed, does it actually mean something's wrong? Well, here's what I found out last night. Alright, so hopefully you guys could see that, but when I agitate this whole knuckle, like swing it over this way, this guy can actually deflect inside, or I should say this entire knuckle deflects this way inside this upper control arm. If you guys don't know Skylines, the front knuckle assembly is like really weird looking. It looks even weirder on a GTR. As with every car, I'll grab the tire at 12 and 6, shake it this way, and then what is that, 3 and 9, and shake it this way. I actually couldn't feel any play in the steering or suspension doing that, but I think part of knowing the chassis well, you know, knowing to grab this thing and not side to side but like rotate it, you could see that not only does that bushing visibly look bad, but actually it's probably deteriorated to the point where that bolt can't even hold this upper control arm in place anymore. So I'm betting this is going on with this wheel, and yeah, I got some white line bushings on order, and pretty cool. Those also are an eccentric, so they offer camber adjustment at that point. So when those come in, we'll get a little more camber, and hopefully my steering wheel stops shaking. Guess what it is? To be honest, how much I support the company, I didn't have the heart to buy another coilover brand, so I invested myself to get this project started. So yeah, we got a base Annex kit to the shop. We're going to be developing a R33 GTST Annex coilover. Don't hold your breath, it's gonna be a while. We are all overburdened right now, but I really wanted to get the ball rolling on this project, you know, not to mention since I have one, so. So yeah, the early stages of prototyping, basically, I stayed late last night, did a few Annex touches on these, just to get the base kit into the car, get a baseline. Also started some of the R&D process for that guy.
I already got the fronts installed, but let's see what else we got.
Like a S chassis, you know these are the rears because they're long as hell. Again, these are still a long way from development, but what was important? Some things that are important are like, do these brackets fit? We gotta find if the body and the rod length, the amount of stroke is correct for the car. Based on some other calculations, we gotta figure out motion ratio. So I can't reveal the spring rates right now, but found out this guy's gonna need extended adjusters in the rear because the interior covers it. Yeah, there's 2 sets of spacers, for a pair for the front, pair for the rear, and these should go on the knuckle first, and then coilovers go on afterwards.
So yeah, pretty excited to get coilovers on this guy, especially with the Annex Touch. Again, still a long development time. I fronted my own money, and as you can see, I'm gonna front my own time into this project, but definitely the Annex team's slammed right now. And there's a few R&D tools we gotta retool. But yeah, if you have a R32 to R34 Skyline and you really wanna see this project going, support a local company who really puts the development time into each and every chassis and can actively provide you support. Make sure to hit up Annex Suspension and yell at them that you want to see Skyline stuff on the market. All right, so really quick, I can't show you guys the secret R&D folder, all the R&D paperwork we got to go through, but as a baseline, some stuff I have to take off of the car. What's the original tire setup? We know people modify the car. What is like a, estimated wheel and tire size? Your starting camber, starting ride height, droop, corner weights, the cross weights of the car, total weight, and then the 2 big ones, unsprung weight and then motion ratio, which I'm not going to be able to do myself. But yeah, long R&D process and a bunch of paperwork to do. I can at least start by filling out this worksheet and getting a kit on the car, so why don't we do that? Quick intermission from working. So again, another reason we do R&D, to find out what works, what actually works and what doesn't. I'm gonna scrap these 390s and I'll show you guys why. When you guys get the extended adjusters from any company,
there's set screws on both ends of this, and sometimes there's 2 set screws. You want to make sure that one's snug and then that one's snug first before you install them. I've had it before where I'll install these and then like a cap will pop off, or like this part will pop off. There's actually a rod in this sheathing that these set screws tighten up against, and then your last set screw, the one farthest out, this one actually tightens against the coilover adjuster, so leave that one loose first, but get the other 2 end set screws tight so this guy doesn't fall apart. Again, we're going to scrap this 390 and use a pair of 325s. Show you guys why. All right, got my coilover in here. You can see the 390 adjuster stick straight out like that. And I tried going through the trunk, through that hole. If we pull back the trunk, that hole right there, that's where the adjuster would have come out. So that seems okay, except you can see how hard of a kink that guy has to make, like way more than a 45 to get out there. And what I found was you could barely use the extended adjuster, like it would jam up internally. And I think because that kink was too extreme. I've seen in some other cars people do this. It sucks, the adjusters stick out like some flowers in the back of the back seat, but that's the plan now, cause I can adjust these at this angle. So I'm gonna run those 235s and just have them stick out in the back seat. Hopefully when the adjusters aren't in use, you can tuck them back behind the back seat so they're not like an eyesore all the time. I absolutely didn't want those adjusters sticking out all the time and looking like a visual nuisance. So yeah, very similar. I think S chassis, S14 at least, you have to do the same thing. Got the right rear coilover in. Any Annex coilover you want the stickers facing the back so you can show these off to the world. I left this undone on purpose. Again, similar to S chassis, it's actually going to be easier to move the bottom cup off of this guy and roll it up or down to change ride height adjustments rather than turn this whole thing. So yeah, I'm going to leave this off. I'm going to put it on but not leave it bolted so I can take it on and off while I make the ride height adjustments. And if you live a lonely mechanic's life like I do, typically you would need 2 people, right? One guy to hold this up, then one guy in the trunk to bolt those top 2 bolts. More often than not, I'm doing stuff like this where I'll set this on top of a suspension part, and then I can thread in the 2 bolts from the trunk. So if you're working by yourself, installing any type of suspension, yeah, this will help you out. Cool, so I'm gonna get the rears in. I'm gonna get those 235 adjusters in. I think I can put the back seat back in. And, yeah, we'll come back. All right, so a little bit of a struggle getting the back seats back in, but here we are. That's what the adjusters look like. Not too much of an eyesore. Yeah, sure enough.
I can adjust them from out here. So yeah, it looks like we're about ready to adjust ride height on this guy. You ready, Dexter? You ready? Help me adjust ride height. Help me, Dexter, help me. As per tradition, we ran out of daylight, but here we are. You guys are probably wondering why I got my T3 hub stands out and installed on the Skyline. So getting these coilovers set correctly for ride height, I know I always get the first measurements wrong. So this way, I'm not taking the wheels on and off however many times it takes. Instead, I can just lift up the car, change the ride height, set it back down. And then this also gives us way more room to check the ride height. Return of the handy dandy Annex ride height measuring tool. Luckily, this hub has something to center up the tool on. I got the length of the pin set already. And then there's a bubble level on here to know that this guy's level. And I'm gonna cheat because I already measured this. So 355 millimeters from hub bore to the fender. And so I really like to measure it this way because if you don't have a good place to work on your car, I feel like this is a really consistent way to measure ride height. Whether you're at the track, whether you're at home, at your buddy's house, if the floor is not level, then, you know, I used to use a tape measure from the frame rails to the floor. Well, if the floor is not level, all those things, your measurements are gonna be off. Hub center to fender has been my favorite and I would argue the most accurate way for ride height measurements. Yeah, luckily I wrote down the ride height the car came in at. I'd like ideally the same ride height, maybe a little bit lower. So let's go check out my measurements. Yeah. So 360 millimeters front, 370 rear. That's about what the car came in at. I know with new coilovers, the springs are gonna settle. I'm going to compensate around 10 millimeters for that. So I'm gonna shoot for 365 on the front and then 370 on the rear. So compensating that, let's say the suspension is gonna settle 10 mil. This should be 10 mil lower. So I should end up at 360 in the rear and then 355 in the front. Yeah, if you guys saw my measurements were off in the rear by a lot, I pretty much need to extend this out 70 mil. And that's another reason why I left this thing unbolted on the bottom, because threading this shock body out 70 mil is gonna give me, my forearms are gonna be unusable for the next week. So yeah, far easier for me to push this out, unthread it down about 70 mil. There's no good rule on how much to thread in and out to change the vehicle ride height. And again, that's gonna depend on the motion ratio, right? So like in short, the relation to how much the wheel moves to the relation to the distance that this shock is gonna move. They're not gonna move 1-to-1. So it sucks, but on a lot of cars, you kind of gotta guess. Like if I extend this out 70 mil, ride height measurement may not end up at 70 mil. So yeah, it sucks. It's gonna be a little bit of guess and check, intuition, and experience, but you know, that's how it goes sometimes. Let's get started. Before I adjust ride height, one last thing I completely forgot about. So there's a lot of Skylines in NorCal that I really like. They're absolutely dumped and slammed. And I think all these cars look great, super low like that. But I paid a grip to have this bumper refinished. So the entire bumper, OEM lip, and then all new factory Nissan hardware underneath. I paid a grip and I think I waited at least 2 months for the body shop to finish that bumper. So long story short, our driveway's steep and this thing absolutely got destroyed and scraped all the time on our driveway. I'm sick of it. Don't want to say how much I spent refinishing this bumper. So as much as I would like to slam this car to the ground, it's not gonna happen. My wallet and my heart can't take it anymore. Much later, we ran into an issue. So let's check it out. All right, so I have the fronts on hub stands. I got the back wheels on. I know the car's at an angle, so it's not gonna be as accurate, but this is max high that I'm getting, which one finger gap. This looks really cool, but I don't want it this low because my expensive front bumper is gonna eat the gravel. So yeah, definitely some adjustments with the base kit are gonna have to be made since this is actually max high. Yeah, I think my solution, I'm gonna preload those rear springs a lot because right now the rear is actually at least 20 mil lower than I wanted. Yeah, in the interim, while we do some more research and get these this coilover application figured out, I'm gonna preload the rears. As soon as I find out how high I can get the rears, I'm gonna match the fronts to that. Hopefully it's not that low. Again, I know it looks cool, but this is gonna get destroyed again, and I don't want that to happen again. All right, home stretch. It's not the AM yet. So, added 20 mil preload to the rear. I was able to raise up the car 20 mil pretty much. I matched the front ride height. I had to lower the fronts a little bit. I'm betting on that when everything settles in, the front's actually gonna get lower than the rear since the rear is so preloaded. They're even right now, but I'm accounting for that difference. Funny, you notice there's more height on the right side? Well, I was just about to change these ride heights until I realized the driver sits on the right side on this car. So yeah, perfect. I'm gonna leave the height of this alone, but it's just funny, muscle memory. I always think, oh yeah, driver's side, we gotta add a little more height. We gotta add a little more height to compensate for the weight of the driver. We'll take a quick look at these coilovers. So yeah, it comes with this bracket for the ABS sensor. Move over to the rear. You guys wanna check out the Hikes Delete video, I'll link it in the description below. You can see how long these shocks are. So long that I gotta zoom in. And likewise the OEM shocks, and then the shocks on a comparable chassis, S14 for sure. The rear shocks are super long like this. And when we're back, I'll have the car back on the floor. Alright, so here we are, ready to road test, ready to let this guy, or I should say let the suspension settle in. It's raining tonight, so that should be fun. Still a lot of development work to do on this particular application, but if you have I believe this will fit a variety of R32, R33, R34 non-GTR variants. So if you are interested in getting a proper coilover system with the Annex Touch, make sure to get in touch with Annex. Appreciate all the support again. I'll make sure to get some driving impressions in the next video. Yeah, catch you guys next time.